to Brewing Success, where growth is the mission, change is the reward, and progress is the goal. I am your host, Andrea Gebhardt. I'm a former educator turned passionate entrepreneur whose desire to create impact has never wavered. I've spent the last decade teaching, mentoring, and coaching people on how to create success in their lives and businesses with proven strategies and systems that not only bring about change, but big results. When it comes down to it, teaching is my specialty, leadership is my jam, and inspiring you to live a bigger, fuller life is what I'm all about. This podcast will give you the knowledge and tools you need to brew success in almost any area of your life. You're going to walk away each week feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to step outside your comfort zone and into the next level of who you're meant to be. Now let's get into today's episode. So I am so excited to talk with you guys about developing discipline on today's episode. But before we do, I just kind of have to address the little bit of a break between my last episode and the resurgence, I guess you can call it, of this episode and the coming episodes. Let's just take a moment for me to kind of update you guys on some things that are taking place in life. First of all, I don't know about any of the other parents out there, but was it just me, or was this springtime season one that was just busier than normal, more packed in than normal? I'm not sure about you, but literally these last probably like 60 days have been nothing short of wildly chaotic. Between all the different sports the kids are involved in, all of the school activities, and everything else, I just constantly felt like as a mom, I was running to catch up with everything. And, sometimes when life gets a little bit tricky, especially when you're a single parent, so hats off to all the single parents out there, especially when you're a single parent, when life gets a little bit tricky, we have to learn to make adjustments where necessary so that we can show up as our best selves in the areas of our responsibilities that need us most. And so over the course of the last 60 days, that it has 100% been my kids and taking care of all the things between late night practices and games, my son going to Valley for swim, dance competitions, all of it. I had to kind of rearrange some of my own priorities so that I could show up best for them. And, now that we're kind of school's out this week, which I'm really excited about, and now that things are kind of dwindling down to some degree for a short period of time, I'm excited to be back with you. So if you're still here and you're still tuning in and you're still here to listen, God bless you for hanging in and waiting for me to come back full force to just really deliver value to every single one of you as we continue on our leadership and entrepreneurial journeys. So I'm just grateful that you're here and back with me. It feels so good to be sitting on my closet floor, looking in this little mirror. I actually had to rearrange my closet a little bit because I was feeling like I needed to remodel in here, and you can't really remodel your closet. So you just move some things around, and it's working for me. It's good. So let's just dive right into it today, and let's talk about how to develop discipline. Now, the thing about discipline is that it's actually a skill. It is not an innate ability. The interesting thing is that depending on the track we have been on in life, sometimes the track we're on forces us to learn discipline very early. Sometimes it rolls in later on in life. Sometimes that message on discipline is very inconsistent. And sometimes being disciplined is the only way that we learn to kind of make it through. And regardless of where you are in that, understanding and knowing that it's a skill and it's developable, I don't even know if that's a word, but developable, should bring you some level of excitement, motivation, and peace of mind, because no matter your background, your education level, your level of success you've had so far, the amount of leadership development you've undergone, it doesn't really matter where you've come from or what you've experienced. What matters is understanding that you can develop this skill, and you want to, because discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments. Now, if you were to actually visualize that for yourself, right? So you have your goals in your left hand, and the completion or the accomplishment or what's going to happen, the result of working on those goals is in your right hand. Now, the bridge from one place to the other is 100% discipline. And it's crazy to think, most people have goals. Most people have great dreams. Most people have like this ability to visualize what their life will look like, what they'll come out on the other side as when they accomplish these goals. But very few people actually work toward becoming disciplined in the areas required in order to reach those goals. You see, a lot of people give up early because they think the dream isn't for them, the goal isn't for them, they're not capable, they're not skilled enough, they're not talented enough, they don't have the right resources, when in all reality, all of that fades away, and your ability to accomplish goals is directly related to the amount of discipline you develop. Period, point blank, end of story. And I'm excited to talk about this because, first of all, this for me is something that I have always personally struggled with, and we'll talk about that in a second. But understanding really what discipline is, I'm excited to teach you this because summertime is the perfect time to really hone in on the development of this for yourself. Because if you don't become more disciplined in these next few months, then the end of your year, the wrap up of the last quarter, is not going to be great. It's not going to be good. And I don't know about you, but I don't set goals to fall short on them. I don't set goals to visualize these outcomes and, these incredible, accomplishments to not reach them. For example, you don't go to the grocery store and buy all the ingredients you need to make an apple pie to not make an apple pie. Like that would just be criminal. So I'm glad that we're here together right now. And this is a conversation we get to have and that we get to share in this together, because if you could just develop the skill of discipline in one area of your life, you have the ability to develop discipline in every area of your life. And it's that tightening of those screws, really, those little teeny tiny degrees of change that results in big momentum, big movement, big changes, big accomplishments. You see, when I think about discipline, really what discipline is it's obedience. It's obedience to what it takes to get what you want. It's obedient to what it takes. Now, when I say that too, it simplifies it, right? Like discipline is being obedient to what it takes, those actions. You have to be obedient to the actions that it's going to take to get you there. And it's funny because I heard a quote once, and I think it said something along the lines of, discipline is, listening to that thing that your body's telling you to do or your mind is telling you to do without talking back. And I giggle when I hear that because I think about all the times when, okay, so I'll just give you a prime example for today. Like we just came back from a dance competition. We did Disneyland California Adventure. Literally my first time to Disneyland as a 40-year-old, and it hit different. Okay, it hit different. My back hurt different. My shoulders hurt different. The rides hit different. The snacks hit different. That's a whole nother conversation. It just hit different, okay? And I was exhausted coming back today, getting the kids back in the routine. Again, they only have a few days of school left, but exhausted today. And in my mind, normally what I would do on a Tuesday is I would take my daughter to dance, and then I would schedule a workout class, and then I would go work out. And today, my body, because it's a routine for me, was like, hey, jump on your app, or my brain was, jump on your app. My body probably wasn't telling me to do anything. My brain was like, hey, jump on the app, schedule your workout, because when you take your daughter to dance, you're going to want to go directly to the workout. You're going to feel great. It's going to give you energy and all the energy you need to finish out the night. So my mind told me to do that, but then I talked back, right? I talked back. I've been so disciplined in this, and I talked back to myself, and I was like, you deserve a break, Mama. You just walked like 40,000 steps in a couple of days. You're exhausted. You're like a mom of the year. Plus, you had a really busy morning supporting your organization and your team, and it's okay. Like, I talked back to myself, like, no, you're not going to work out. And guess what happened? I didn't go work out. Like, it it didn't happen. And now I'm sitting here telling you about this, and I'm mad at myself because, like, what was I thinking? And why didn't I just follow through on that? Like, ugh, that'll never happen again, right? So discipline really is listening to that nudge from yourself and not talking back, not talking yourself out of it, not creating excuses, not allowing that to happen. So this is a learned skill, and that's exciting. And it's interesting because the number one question I get from people in almost every arena of life is, what does it take to be successful? And the answer is simple. It takes one thing above all else, and that's discipline. And remember that discipline is obedience to what it takes. So when it comes to discipline, just right now, out of curiosity, how would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being I'm super disciplined. I do the things I'm supposed to do every single day without fail, without distraction, without emotional, tolls. I'm in it. I got it. I do it. I'm disciplined. Like I am the poster child for discipline. 5, you're like, well, okay. you know what that well means. That well, sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. It just depends on how I feel as I flick my hair over my shoulder. And 0, I am just now learning about discipline for the first time, and I'm really excited to be here because I could probably use a little bit of this in my life. So no matter where you are, the goal is growth in this area. Remember, it's a skill. Okay. And skills are something that we don't learn once. It's not something that we just become good at one time. Like a skill is something that continues to evolve and strengthen. A skill is something that continues to evolve and strengthen. So for example, like basketball players, like NBA superstars, they don't just like learn the skill of a 3-point shot, master that, and then like, that's it. No, they get better at it. They can do jump shots. They can do, like I've watched Steph Curry during playoffs, shoot a 3-point while falling on the ground. They're shooting them from like almost half court. They're getting better at that skill. They're constantly working to improve that skill. Discipline is the same way. You got to constantly work to improve it. You're going to start from where you are and you're going to grow it and you're going to develop it. I'm going to teach you all about that today, which is awesome. So discipline provides you with rules to your life to live by. And discipline makes your life and the things that you do more efficient and more effective. When you're disciplined, you can make small sacrifices in the present that result in a better life in the future. So you see, that's what discipline is all about. Discipline is doing things right now that your future self is going to thank you for. If you've been disciplined in your exercise habits over the last 5 years, your body is thanking you for that right now, right? If you've been disciplined in the way that you have nourished your body in healthy ways, you are so grateful for that right now. If you have prioritized rest and sleep over the course of the last few years, you are thanking yourself for that right now. If you have prioritized skincare, for crying out loud, over the course of the last 5 years, you are thanking yourself, right now. And so what P.S. Carter and I totally like half a root beer, because he can't have caffeine and I don't really allow it. But like we just halved a root beer with dinner. So this is real and raw. I promise you guys that from the very beginning of the show. You're just going to get the real deal Holyfield here. I'm with you. I am in the trenches with you and dealing with the the root beer bubbles also as we go along. But it's about giving up those things now so that your future self, has a better life. And when you think about where you are right now in your life, you're either better off than you were 5 years ago, or you're the same as where you are 5 years ago, or you're worse off from where you were 5 years ago. And if you get to choose better, the same, or worse, I hope that you're choosing better. I hope that you want to grow and evolve and accomplish and become better as you go along, because that's really what life is about. You see, discipline creates habits, and habits evolve into routines, and your routines are who you become daily. And that's the really neat thing about it. And I love this concept because when it comes to wellness, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to, success in whatever it is that you're doing, it's really neat to start to kind of embody what that person, that future self of yourself is, right? So it's like, you're not just somebody, I don't just exercise. I'm someone who exercises. I don't just eat well. I'm someone who eats well. It's a part of my identity, right? And, growth, like I'm not somebody who just growth is a part of my identity. It's something I do every single day. And so I want you to kind of like embody like where you see yourself going, that future version of yourself in who you are today, because those routines are who you become daily. And if we're really developing into something and really growing and evolving, then who is it that you want to become? Have you thought about that? Have you written it down? Have you journaled it? Have you explored that? Like, who do I want to be? What do I want to be about? And it's interesting because this actually makes me think about, I speak at high schools and elementary schools. I do a lot of like graduating class speeches and stuff like that. And I get the opportunity every year to talk to this really incredible students at this high school. It's a local high school. And I always get to talk to the juniors. And in this conversation, I talk to them about how we as adults have failed children repeatedly over and over and over in their lives from about 3 years old until they're probably like 25. And we asked them the worst question that we could ever ask them. And I'm sure you're guilty of it too, as was I, until I just had this epiphany one day. We ask kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And when they're little, they can't decide if they want to be Spider-Man or a doctor. What do you want to be when you grow up? And then they can't decide, right? Because then they start to like understand money, and you need to have money to do things. So then they pick these really like big careers that make a lot of money. Like now they want to be a doctor or an NFL superstar or a lawyer. And then the reality sets in when like chemistry isn't going so well, or like they gagged when they were like cutting open that frog. And so then they're like, I want to be a nurse, or I want to be a teacher, or I want to be a professional, an engineer. Like they come up with all these different things. We're always asking kids, what do you want to be? 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 And I talk about this with these students, and I say, I'm going to flip the script on you guys, and I'm going to apologize for every adult who's ever asked you the worst question they could ever ask you, because it's not about what you do with your life. It's who you are in your life. Who do you want to become? What do you want to be known for? Like, at the end of the day, when we all go and there's a funeral and there's a service being held, nobody's going to talk about your job and your career and like your accomplishments. They're going to talk about who you are. They're going to talk about the impression you left. They're going to talk about the impact you made. They're going to talk about your qualities and characteristics, not your titles, accolades, and salary. Right? So who you are is so much more important than what you do, which is why discipline matters. Because yes, it's going to get us to those things, the what part, but it's who it's going to shape us into that really matters more than anything else. See, discipline is adopting that no matter what mindset. No matter what, these are the things I'm going to do every single day. No matter what. These are the actions I'm going to lean into every single day. No matter what, no matter what, no matter what. They're the non-negotiables. It is that it's having that regardless attitude. Regardless of how I feel, I'm going to do these things. Regardless of what's happening in the world around me, I'm going to continue to do these things. Regardless of, the weather outside. Regardless, no matter what, these are the things I'm going to do because I'm disciplined. Because I'm obedient to the actions of what it's going to take to get where I want to go. And I'm going to tell you that like discipline is like the ultimate whittler of self, meaning it's going to whittle you into a more incredible person, a more impactful person. That's why discipline matters. Have you ever noticed the most undisciplined people are the most grumpy, most unhappy, most negative, most energy-sucking people on the planet? And people who are disciplined are grateful, and they see abundance. They don't operate from a scarcity mindset. They're positive. They're optimistic. They're uplifting. They're encouraging. There's a reason for that, because discipline makes you as a human better. Period. Point blank. And sorry, I know I keep saying that, but it's just the honest truth. Discipline is about showing up and doing the things even when you don't feel like it. Guys, we can all admit that there are days when we don't feel like being a mom. We don't feel like doing laundry. We don't feel like making another sandwich. We don't feel like loading the dishwasher with 432 cups again. But we do. There are days as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, you're not going to want to show up. You're not going to want to take another call. You're not going to want to respond to that text. You're not going to want to lead that Zoom. You're not going to want to get on social media. You're not going to want to do the things. There are going to be days that you're not going to feel like it. There are days, I'm sure, in your relationship when you don't feel like doing the things for that other person, when you don't feel like being in the relationship, when you don't feel like taking care of whatever, but you show up and you do it out of love, out of respect, out of whatever. You do it for your kids because you love them unconditionally. We have that no matter what, regardless, right? We have to remember that. Discipline is about commitment. And I love this because if you aren't disciplined, I don't care what you say, you're not committed. And sometimes we're like, I'm so committed to my goals. I'm so committed to my vision. I'm so committed to going to the next level. I'm so committed to growth and evolving and success. I'm so committed. But they lack discipline. You're not committed. You're not committed. You have to be committed to the work, committed to the process, committed to the goal. You have to be committed to failure. You have to be committed to mistakes. You have to be committed to learning and growing and picking yourself up and doing it all over again. You have to be committed. Where there is no discipline, there are no results. And that is true in every area of your life. It's that simple. Discipline is not about exceptions. It is not about exceptions to the rules that you have set for yourself. Those rules or exceptions are the gateways to failure. Today, I made an exception for myself. You're not going to go work out because you're tired and you walked 40,000 steps and you can just work out tomorrow. Don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself a break. Self-love, hashtag, whatever. I don't know. Like dumb. It's so dumb. And I'm so mad at myself now, right? Like I made an exception. Exception is a gateway to failure. Shoot. I should have recorded this podcast earlier today. And probably wouldn't be in this mess. Exceptions are the gateway to failure. When you start making exceptions to the rules that you have set for your life, that you have set for your path, you're creating opportunities for setbacks and you're creating opportunities for massive failures. Because one exception can lead to a wild unraveling of all the work that you have done. I mean, think about it. You skip the gym one day, it's way easier to skip it 2 days, and then 3 days, and then 4 days. And before you know it, you didn't go to the gym for like a week. And then you're like, well, I'm just going to take the rest of the month off. And then you go for a whole month. And like you start to unravel all that progress you've made. Same thing with eating healthy. Like, I can have a donut today or two. And then it's like, well, I had a donut yesterday. I didn't gain a pound, so I'm just going to have another donut today. And then you realize a week later after eating donuts every day for a week that you're up 2.5, 3 pounds. And then you're upset because you'd maintained your weight for so long, so well. Again, exceptions are gateways to failure and unravel the progress that you're making. This is why discipline matters. This is why understanding what action needs to be taken, what rules need to be put in place matters so much so that you can set yourself on that right path, on the right path. And I love it because like discipline really enables you to automate success. Now, if I were to ask you, how many of you guys would love automatic success? How many of you guys would love automatic success in your health and wellness journey, automatic success in your business, automatic success as a leader? Well, in order to automate success, you have to become disciplined because remember, discipline creates habits. Habits evolve into routines, and routines are what automate. Routines are what automate. And having success automatically isn't something you can buy, isn't something you can just program. It's simply a matter of you making the decision to finally, for the first time ever, be disciplined in what it is that you are working toward. And I talk about discipline a lot, and I mentioned this earlier because it really is the one thing that I have struggled with more than anything else. I know that sounds crazy. Like, how have I gotten this far? How have I done as well as I've done? Kind of like being wishy-washy with discipline. And I love to talk about it and I love to learn about it because I'm trying to, sharpen my own edge in that department. And It's interesting because remember the beginning, I talked about how sometimes we've been on certain tracks in life that have made us more disciplined just naturally. Okay. That skill was developed earlier. And I feel like that's kind of like what happened. Like when you're an athlete, you become disciplined in certain arenas. Like discipline is just a part of that. When you're going to college and you're taking 22 units a quarter and working 3 jobs, that was me, you learn to become disciplined. You have to become disciplined because the only way to, thrive during that period of your life. When you're a single parent, you have to become disciplined because it's the only way to like manage all the craziness by yourself. And so there's some lots in life that have really contributed to our abilities to develop discipline. But again, like I talked about, it's a skill, which means you have to constantly work toward and like developing it and continuing to developing it. And it's a one place where I like just really, really struggle. And when I sit down and I like look at everything out in front of me, I know that I am not where I could be because of the discipline I haven't activated. I know that I haven't accomplished certain things in certain areas and arenas of my life because I haven't been as disciplined as I could be. And when I say that to you, it kind of sucks to say because it's like I'm the leader. I'm out front. I host a podcast and I'm teaching you and I'm sharing things with you to maybe provide shortcuts, if you will, or teach you things that will help you advance a little bit faster because I'm going to teach you based off things that I've learned and grown through. And I'm sitting here saying this to you and and I hope it brings you comfort to say, oh my gosh, okay, great. Like awesome. Cause I haven't been so disciplined. You're not so disciplined. Cool. We're in it together. Let's get more disciplined together. That's perfect. And that's really what it's about. And when I say that, I sit here and I'm just like, Andrea Gale. I like middle name myself. Andrea Gale. What is wrong with you? You know what you need to do. You know what it takes. Stop listening to old programming in your brain. Stop allowing yourself to make exceptions like I did today and figure this out because you know better. And that's the thing because discipline is a constant battle of the mind. Constant battle of the mind. It's a constant battle of wills. It's a constant battle of old programming and the self-sabotaging minions, guys that live in our brains. It also frustrates the heck out of me because I know better. Right? But we're not perfect and we make mistakes and we, don't always use the best judgment. And I'm going to say this to you right now. You will always continue to make exceptions for yourself, break the rules, because you always have before and nothing terrible has happened, right? And so because we know nothing terrible has happened, we're like, well, it's not going to be that bad. And like that not so bad compounds into really bad eventually over time, but it's not the same immediate knee-jerk reaction as like if you stuck your hand in a fire flame, it's going to get burned, right? So you're never going to do that again. If you eat the donut, if you skip a day at the gym, if you don't show up to your business, if you don't plug in, if you don't read the book, if you don't take the actions once, there's no immediate like repercussion. You're like, well, that wasn't so bad. I'm okay. You open up your computer, your laptop, your business is still there. The store is still there. Your team is still there, but you continue on that route. And all of that inaction compounds. All of that lack of discipline compounds. All of that lack of connection, engagement, and showing up, and all of those things start to compound and you take yourself right out. Like, why don't we talk about unraveling progress? That is the fastest way to do it. In fact, I read a quote by John Maxwell this morning. I shared it on my story. Hope you're following me on Instagram. Shared on my story today. He says, like, what you focus on grows and what you don't focus on shrinks. And it's so dang true. It is so dang true. And we have to constantly remember that. And discipline keeps our focus right where it belongs. So, maybe for you, this provides some level of comfort as it should, because discipline is something that most people never master. They really don't. But making constant progress in the area of discipline will change your life and bring you success at every corner. I can literally promise you that. So I'm going to walk you through the 10 traits of disciplined people. Now, obviously the world is full of them. The world is full of wannabes. That's me, right? And the world is also full of people who just don't know and just choose to not engage with this skill and continue to like live a dissatisfying life where they're not accomplishing much, not much growth is happening, all that kind of stuff. So let's talk about these top 10 traits. And I want you to think about this in terms of yourself, and then think about this also as kind of like a checklist or a chart of like, okay, these are if these are the top 10 traits of disciplined people, then these are the areas where I need to grow. We're going to talk about that a little bit. So the first one is that disciplined people commit. They are true to their word, which means they do what they say they're going to do. So they commit, they are true to their words. They say what they are, or they do what they say they're going to do. Now, some of us are really great at this. Some of us are not so great at this, right? We've gone back on our word. Well, I know I said I was going to do this, but actually blah, 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 right? So how true are you to your word? And do you always do what you say you're going to do? The second trait is they avoid temptation and proactively have backup plans to do so. Let's talk about, let me just back up and take you back through this. So they commit, they're true to their words. Let me ask you this question. What actions do you need to commit to? Where in your life do you need to be true to your word? It can be a word to yourself if we're talking like health and wellness and nutrition and fitness. It can be word to your team or your business partners. What actions do you need to commit to? Where do you need more commitment in your life from yourself? It's easy to think about who we need to be more committed to us, but like you got to be committed to you first, boo. Like, where do you need to be more committed? What actions do you need to be more committed to? And I encourage you to like really explore that, jot it down, and get to work with it. They avoid temptation and proactively have backup plans to do so. Avoid temptation. See, this is the interesting thing, because you have to know, like if you're going on a diet or you're trying to eat healthier, what are your temptations? If your temptations are cookies and treats and all those kinds of things, you got to know what those are and you got to avoid them. If you're trying to build your business, but you're easily distracted by social media, you've got to learn how to avoid that. If you are wanting to develop and grow any kind of skill, but your temptation is to procrastinate, you've got to have a plan to avoid that. You've got a plan for temptations. Okay, all right, I know that I'm going to start this whole new fitness routine, and my biggest temptation is going to be to watch Netflix instead of go to the gym. And so what's your plan for that? Well, you create a new habit or routine. I cannot watch Netflix until after I've worked out. And you just hold that promise to yourself. I know my temptation is going to be sweet, so guess what? You plan for that. You don't buy them at the grocery store. You can't eat what you didn't buy, friends. It's that simple. And so just being aware of that and planning for setbacks. So when I know I'm going to have a really busy day with the kids because of whatever activities are taking place, I prioritize my workout in the morning. Because I know that if I try to do it later, my energy is going to get the best of me. Their homework is going to get the best of me. The places they need to be is going to get the best of me. And chances are I'm not going to get to that workout because everything else had to take priority. So paying attention to that. Where could things go awry in this plan, and how can I be prepared for it? Disciplined people take care of themselves. You want to know how to visibly spot the difference between a disciplined and non-disciplined person? You can see that in people. You can see it. You can see it physically. You can see it in the way that they carry themselves. You can see it in the way that they dress. You can see it in the way that they speak. You can see it in their posture. You can literally see discipline. You can hear discipline. They take care of themselves, because you can't be disciplined if you're not rested, because you're going to be tired. You're not going to feel like it and you won't do it. You can't be disciplined if you're not eating right and taking care of yourself, because you're not going to have the mental energy or the physical energy to, pursue these actions if you're hangry or distracted because you're starving and you have a hunger headache. I get those. They take care of themselves. They focus on themselves. They focus on growing themselves. They focus on getting rest and moving their bodies and taking care of themselves so that they can show up at the best of themselves in the things that they need to do. They work at developing habits. Now, here I'm going to say this, work at developing habits, which means we're constantly developing and refining our habits as we go. That is what disciplined people do. They set boundaries. This is a big one. Or trust me, we're going to have like a whole podcast episode on boundaries coming up. Just wait for it. They set boundaries. They set boundaries to protect themselves. You have to set boundaries to protect you, to protect your time, to protect your energy, to protect your dreams. You have to set boundaries. Boundaries are in place to protect you from other things and people, right? So here's a question you got to ask yourself. Who do I need to set boundaries with? Where in my life do I need to set boundaries? So for example, my kids know that when I'm in the office, sitting at the white table in the middle of the office with my laptop, that is DNDT, do not disturb time. That means I know I'm sharing the same four walls with you guys, and I know I'm physically here, but when I'm in this space, I am working and I'm focused. And that means that if you can't figure it out on your own, it doesn't happen right now because I'm not going to answer the question. I'm not going to help with the thing. This is DNDT, do not disturb time. I'm in here. They know we have that boundary set because when you're working at home, especially during the pandemic, when the kids were home 24/7, I had to put that boundary in place because every 5 minutes there's an interruption and it takes 20 minutes to recover from an interruption before 5 interruption costs you an hour. And I don't know about you guys, but I barely have enough time as it is. So we had to put boundaries in place. And it made things so much better because I was no longer barking at them and they were no longer, making me wish I was somewhere else. So boundaries are important. They thrive on routines. Disciplined people thrive on routines. They love routines. Routines are what make them happy. Routines are their love language. Okay. So what routines do you need to establish? Routines. Remember what I said earlier. Habits evolve into routines, and routines are who you become daily. They make decisions based on their goals, not their moods. Oh, stinger. This one's tricky, right? Because when you feel good, you're excited, you're motivated, you're ready to rock and roll, and you do the things and you show up with the zest and enthusiasm and energy. But when you don't feel good and the little black cloud is following you around everywhere and you adopt this sudden Eeyore voice, you're not excited to show up. And guess what? You don't. You're not excited to talk to the other person on that call or that text. And guess what? You don't. You don't feel like helping a customer with a customer service issue. And guess what? You don't. And what happens is you allow your mood to dictate your actions. That is not what disciplined people do. Disciplined people move no matter what. It's that no matter what mindset, no matter how I feel. I'm going to decide ahead of time, no matter how I feel, no matter what kind of mood I'm in, I'm going to get these things done. Some days it's going to feel good. Some days it's not going to feel good. Some days I'm going to be super pumped to do it. Some days I'm not going to be super pumped to do it. Some days I'm going to feel like I'm the most blessed person on the planet to do what I get to do every single day. Some days I'm going to loathe what I do. It doesn't matter how I feel. I'm going to show up and do the things anyway. That is discipline, my friends. So put a plan in place ahead of time. When I feel like this, I'm still going to show up. In fact, when I feel like this, here's my emergency escape plan from that mood or that energy level. So when I feel grumpy, crabby, tired, or whatever, I'm going to put on my jam. I almost said, Alexa, play, but then she might go off and then it'll ruin this whole podcast. I'm going to go put on my jam. I'm going to go move my butt in the kitchen and go dance off all of this stuff, come back, feel better, and get right to it. Have an emergency evacuation plan for that mood or that energy so that you can release it and you can roll right into, the actions and things that you promise yourself you're going to do. Disciplined people have clearly defined goals. Don't just tell me you want to make a lot of money. How much? Don't just tell me you want to grow your business. By how much? Don't just tell me you want to be successful. Tell me what that looks like to you. Don't just tell me you want to lose weight. Give me a number. Don't just tell me you want to be a runner. Tell me how many miles you want to run and what times you want to be able to do it in. They have clearly defined goals. Half the problem, listen, you can't build a bridge to something that isn't clear on the other side. You can't build a bridge. You've got to be super clear on what it is that you want to accomplish, what it is that you want to do. Otherwise, discipline doesn't really want to get involved. Discipline loves clarity. Discipline loves finite, hardcore, set in stone ambitions. Discipline doesn't have room for well, maybe this, maybe that. No, discipline's they want you to show up postured and convicted in what it is that you're looking to accomplish. Disciplined people create deadlines for themselves. See, now you're gonna especially those of you guys who've been listening to me speak recently, you're gonna come at me on this one, okay? Because I will just preface it with this. I always say you cannot put a timeline or an expiration date on your potential. Meaning, you can't tell yourself, if I'm not here by this time, I'm going to quit. I'm going to give up. I've seen it happen. Guys, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've watched people all over the place be if I'm not a millionaire in 3 days, I quit. If I haven't built a team of 10,000 people in a year, I'm out. This isn't for me. Oh my gosh, are you for real? Are you for real? You can't put an expiration date on your potential, your dreams, your goals, your visions. However, you can give yourself deadlines for the actions that need to be taken, meaning by 10 p.m. tonight, I'm going to have the next 6 episodes recorded. That is a deadline. By 4 p.m. today, I'm going to start 100 conversations with new prospects. By 3 p.m. tomorrow, I'm going to have that entire weight loss plan completely drafted up for my customers. By this time, give yourself deadlines for the actions. Hold yourself accountable. Guys, think about it. When we were in elementary school, junior high, high school, and college, if our teachers never gave us a due date, we would never have turned in the work. It was only because it was due Friday that we started working on it Thursday night. Where are my procrastinators at? Another episode will come along too and show up together, right? So they also keep their eye on the prize. They're big picture focused. Disciplined people don't get hung up on the hurdles. They don't get tripped up by the setbacks. They don't stumble over the little trials and tribulations. Guys, we expect them. We anticipate them. I know that there's going to be setbacks. I know that there's going to be ebbs and flows in my business. I know that I'm going to have high months and low months. I know that I'm going to experience all of these things. I'm not in it to only win. I'm in it to grow through that process. I'm in it to become better because of it all. And so they keep their eye on the prize. They're big picture focused. And when you're big picture focused, the little things don't trip you up, which allows you to show up big to those big actions that are going to move you closer to your goals. So no matter what you're wanting to do and accomplish, discipline is the key. Losing weight, getting fit, writing a book, building a business, becoming a better person, becoming sober, becoming a better parent, becoming a better partner, all of it. It all takes discipline. And if these are the traits, if this is the bar of what disciplined people do, then we got to take note of these things. And this is where we want to grow. We want to become more committed and be more true to our word. We want to avoid temptation and proactively have backup plans to do so. We want to prioritize taking care of ourselves. We want to continue to work at developing habits. We want to set more boundaries where boundaries need to be set. We want to develop more routines. We want to get better at making decisions based on our goals and not our moods. We want to always bring additional clarity to our goals. We always want to work from a place of creating deadlines or accountability for ourselves. And we always want to be big picture focused. So what area of your life do you need more discipline? What area of your life do you want to change and change for good? What are the things that you need to do to make that happen? How are you going to become more disciplined in that area? What routines are you going to put in place? What habits are you going to develop? What goals are you going to set? And who are you going to tell about it so that you can be held accountable? I double dog dare you to become more disciplined in one area of your life and tell me about what happened a year from now. Like, I dare you to come back to me a year from now and be like, okay, so I listened to that one episode you talked about discipline, and these are the changes, these are the things that I did, and here's what's happened because of it. I double dog dare you to come back to me with that, right? So how, like, we've learned about what discipline is, and we've talked about like, the traits of disciplined people, but how do we actually develop discipline? I'm going to tell you. Okay, are you ready for it? First thing you need to do to develop discipline is you need to identify your downfall. Meaning, what do you already know is going to be your weakness? What do you already know is going to be your tripping point? Like, what do you already know is going to be your downfall? Is it time management? Is it excuses? Is it social media as a distraction? Is it, prioritizing activities like Netflix and whatever else? Like, what's going to be your downfall? What's going to be your downfall? You know what that is for yourself. Identify what that is. And once you've identified what those pitfalls for you are, what those distractions for you are, like literally I have this chair in the corner of my bedroom. I call it the chair of death for 2 reasons. And I bought that chair because I wanted a place other than my bed to sit and read, right? At night or in the afternoon or whenever. So I bought this chair. It's really great. I don't even sit in it like a normal chair, like lean my back against one arm and throw my legs over the other arm. And I love to read there. Well, what started happening is I would sit in this chair and I would grab my phone and I would start scrolling social. And then I would look up and it'd be like an hour and a half later that I was just sitting in this chair doing nothing on social media, but scrolling. Who else is guilty? And then mad at myself because I was like, I would give anything for an extra hour and a half of my day. And I can't believe I just wasted it watching like cats being freaked out by cucumbers. Like, what was I thinking? And so literally, I call that the chair of death. And so I know that chair is a downfall. If that chair is available, I will sit my little booty in it and I'll bust out my phone and then nothing will happen. So I make sure that there's always things in that chair during the day, right? So that I don't sit in it. And the only time I now allow myself to sit in it is if I sit in it with a book, because I know I'll actually read the book, right? So I know I know it sounds crazy, but it's those little things, guys. It's those little things. It's like your downfall, if you're like working on trying to be healthier or lose weight, your downfall is chips. And if you open that bag of chips, it's game over. Then you just don't open the chips, which means you don't buy the chips, which means they're not in your pantry. Okay. So identify your downfall, create a strategy for yourself, outline action steps, and build a routine. That's how you handle that. So you build that routine for yourself. Okay. So if this is my downfall, here's my strategy so that I can, not fall into that trap. Create those action steps and build a routine around it. So we identify our downfall. The second thing that we do is we create a strategy, right, to circumvent that. The third thing that we do is we remove temptation. We remove temptation. So what does that look like for you? What temptation gets in the way? What are those things that like tempt you out? So if alcohol is a temptation that melts your motivation, get rid of it. If, snacks and things and treats and goodies are tempting and your temptation that are going to interfere with your weight loss or fitness goals, get rid of it. If calling your bestie at 7 p.m. Is a temptation that's going to prevent you from spending quality time with your kids or, getting that work done that you need to do or getting yourself to the gym, how can you remove the temptations that you need to remove so that you can be more successful? The next thing that you need to do to develop discipline is this one's kind of like really hard to explain. Here's the thing. When you're becoming disciplined in anything, we tend to give up and we tend to quit because it becomes super uncomfortable, right? You go to the gym, you work out the first time, you're super sore the next day. You're like, man, why did I do that to myself? I was totally fine the day before. You start to eat a little bit different. And for the first few days, maybe you're lagging energy. Maybe you get a headache. Maybe you're not feeling so great. So then you're like, oh my gosh, why am I trying to eat different? Like, this doesn't feel good. And we want to go back to what feels more comfortable and feels better. You start a side hustle, a side gig, and you start getting into those actions and it feels weird to be messaging people or it feels weird to be posting on social media and you feel uncomfortable and you're like, man, I didn't feel uncomfortable when I wasn't doing these things. And so you revert back to old patterns, old behaviors, old way of life, and you take yourself out of the progress line. So I say all that to say to you that if you want to develop discipline, then you have to get real comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to like build your emotional tolerance. Get used to feeling frustrated because it's a part of the process. Get used to feeling discouraged because it's part of the process. Get used to feeling like, you maybe lack a little bit of motivation because that's just a part of the process. Strengthen that emotional tolerance, because the thing is that anytime we step outside of our comfort zone, like think about it, right outside your comfort zone is the uncomfortable zone. Nobody likes to be uncomfortable. When we get hot, we turn on the air. When we get cold, we throw on a sweater. Like nobody likes being comfortable. So that is going to happen to you in like that mental and emotional space as well. You're going to try something new, venture out there, you're going to become uncomfortable and you're going to want to retreat. You're going to want to go back, but you're going to have to build that muscle. You're going to have to learn to tolerate the emotions that come along with growth and progress. To become more disciplined, you're also going to want to focus on long-term rewards. So what I mean by that is, okay, yep, I know where I want to be. I know what I want to accomplish, but I want you to visualize, what is that going to look like? When you accomplish that goal that you set for yourself, what is that going to look like? What's it going to feel like? What's it going to change? Who's that going to impact? Why does that matter? Put yourself in that future context. It's interesting. They say that the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So if you put yourself in that future context and you see yourself accomplishing those things and you see the way it's changing your life and you visualize the way that it's going to enhance everything, your brain believes that is going to work toward achieving that because it's going to like the way that feels. Like our brains love to work toward the things that feel good, and that's going to feel good to you. So focus on those long-term rewards and put yourself in that future version of where you're going to be. Focus on, on those days when it's hard, remember why you're doing it. On those days when you don't feel like it, remember who you're doing it for. Like that's the kind of stuff that matters. And the last thing about how to become more disciplined, or how to develop discipline, I should say, is decide now how you're going to recover from your mistakes. Listen, you're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to mess up horrifically. You're going to be wanting to crawl in a dark hole and disappear forever with some of these things some of these mistakes that you make. And I want you to think about what your recovery mode is going to be. How are you going to recover from the mistakes that you're going to make? Are you going to look for the lesson immediately and move on? You obviously don't want to dwell on it. You don't want to beat yourself up for it. You want to decide ahead of time, okay, when I make a mistake, when I fail, when I am pushed into a hard lesson, what is going to be my mode of operation? How am I going to react? How am I going to respond? How am I going to recover? Because once you decide that ahead of time, there's no room for error, and there's no way for any lapse in judgment or anything else to kind of creep in and steal your thunder. Mistakes are going to happen. How you respond to them and how you recover from them is going to dictate everything. So how do you become more disciplined? How do you develop discipline? You identify your downfalls. You create a strategy and outline action steps and create routines that are going to help deliver success for you. You remove temptations. You decide ahead of time to, or at least acknowledge that you're going to have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You're going to focus on those long-term rewards, and you're going to decide ahead of time how you're going to recover from the mistakes that you're inevitably going to make. And when I share this with you, I hope that you're not just kind of in this place of, oh, okay, great, discipline. This is what I'm missing. This is what I need. I hope that you come from more of a place of feeling like you've just been given this incredible roadmap on what it looks like to be disciplined and how to develop discipline for yourself so that you can build that bridge from your goals to your accomplishments. Because like I said in the very beginning, discipline is what's going to enable you to make that progress. Discipline is what most people fall short on, and why most people do not succeed, why most people quit, but you're different. And now that you know better, now that you understand what discipline is and what it's really about, you have the ability to show up differently in this area, in whatever aspect of your life that you're looking to apply it to. And I encourage you to start small with that. If being disciplined is being obedient to the things that we need to do every day, adopting that no matter what mindset, adopting that attitude of regardless, think about how you flipping this switch is going to truly impact your results and your outcomes. And I know that you don't know the answer to that yet because you're not there yet. You haven't done that yet. And the good news is that most of us haven't. Truly, if more people were more disciplined, we'd be so much further along in life. But we're here learning, growing, trying to figure it out, and instead of applying all these crazy little life hacks about, that you're seeing in reels and TikToks about like how to cook things or clean things or improve things around your home, take these life hacks that some of the most incredible leaders are offering to you by way of conversations just like this one to make growth and progress in your day-to-day life. So that when, you reach the top, you get to that end, you're going to be really proud of the life that you lived. You're going to be really proud of the life that you led. And be really proud of the things that you decided to do today that contributed to that future version of yourself. Guys, Brewing Success is back in action. I'm so glad you're here. If you're just like, man, this is so good. If you want to come back, listen to it again, take some notes, share it with a friend. Thank you for being here and for tuning in. Where growth is the mission, change is the reward, and progress is the goal. You guys are amazing, and I can't wait to be back with you next time.